All right, all right, all right. Hey, what's going on? Chris Arquez here, and this is your best life defined. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for stopping by and taking the time out of your busy day to listen to me rattle on about certain things. Trying giving you quality. I'm really trying to give you the quality you deserve. I'm trying to actually say, you know what, I've got to put even more effort into this. I've got to do a better job because if you're going to show up every day and you're going to give up your valuable time to me, if you're going to show up every day and you're going to say, okay, Chris, what do you got to say? I owe it to you to give you that. To give you that. And that's the reason I keep showing up. It's because I just have to hold on to this belief that at some point what I'm saying and what you need to hear is going to connect. That's a pretty cool thought. I mean, that's actually life-changing. That's the type of thing that inspires me to keep showing up every day. It's because there's nothing that feels like having someone say, hey, Chris, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you putting the time in, you know? I know for me, I'm working on this thing, and in this, there's always another step. In this, there is always something else that I'm going to do. It's the evolution, because what I figured out is there are so many things I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about. So what you do is you take and what I do is I take and I build on this combination of ideas and constant effort in a direction. So even before, like, I didn't just pick the podcast. I've been working on the books, 2 of them now. And I've got some plans for it. I'm not sure exactly where this is going to end up yet. As soon as the book gets out and I get the other ones finished, then we'll be okay with it. But there's always a next step for me. And that's why you see me doing so many different things. I used to get criticized when I was hanging out. Did you know I was a backpack salesman? I was a backpack salesman for about a week. Till everybody laughed me out of it. They just like, that's the funniest shit I've ever seen. And of course, I used to set myself up. We'd sit in the room, we'd talk about it, and I'd tell them what I'm doing because I was always working on something, right? And they would laugh and they'd do this and that. And most of the stuff I was doing didn't look like anything anyone else was doing. I was like out in the backyard at 26 years old, chasing a heavy bag around, kicking and punching the hell out of it every day, hour and a half, 2 hours a day, just ready, just a loaded cannon ready for that fight that never came. Because it's funny, I spent all that time training, punching and kicking, got my brown belt in Kempo karate and just doing all this stuff, right? I've never actually had to use any of it. Well, maybe that's not true. I have had to take a few guys to the ground, but it wasn't because they were assaulting me. It was because their actions were threatening someone else and they needed to be handled. But all that effort. And then that was the step when I became a deputy sheriff, because I didn't want to go in there and get my ass kicked. I mean, think about your impression of law enforcement activities. Think about your impression of working in a prison, corrections. I mean, you're thinking, man, you got to be a badass to work in prison. Man, not really. You just have to be smart. You just have to know how to play the game. But I didn't know that. I'd never worked in a prison before. I'd never been a correctional officer. Never been a deputy sheriff before. I didn't know that, so I just kept going step after step after step after step. And I went from construction to deputy sheriff to correctional officer to maintenance supervisor to vocational CAD instructor. Because no matter where you are, there's always another step. This is how you can tell. You ever get around people and they get to talking about the I'm gonnas, I'm gonna, we're gonna, we want to, we'd like to, all those phrases, all those ideas and things that people talk about that you kind of wonder, yeah, okay. If you want to get to the bottom of it, then when someone says, hey, listen, I'm going to do this or I'm doing this, the question that puts them on their heels is, okay, what's your next step? Whatever your thing is. I don't define. See, that's what's interesting. I'm not telling you what you need to do because I can't. You are inside here who you are, and the way you pick that is you go, okay, who am I on the inside? What do I like to do? Well, I don't like mowing lawns. I don't like working really hard at mundane things like cleaning vehicles and doing crap like that. Okay, I don't enjoy it. There are other things I would rather do. And then you say, okay, well, given that, I pick something, and I say, okay, now what's the next step? Well, pick it. All right, there you go. What's the next step? It's action. Made simply in my mind, I make a list of things I have to do. in order for me to accomplish that goal. Do you have any next steps? Now, don't confuse this with the crap you're already doing. Don't confuse this with that rotation that you go through day in and day out, where you get up, take care of the kids, go to work, do what you do, come home, do it again, fall asleep, maybe don't fall asleep, get up, do it again, grinding it out day in, day out, week in, week out. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not the next step. It is from a series that you have a series of things to do. I'm talking about the new part of it, the new step, the new direction. Oh, that's where it gets tough. That's where it gets tough. That's where most people say, you know what, I don't want any part of this anymore. That's where most people will actually hit the stop button on this podcast, because let's face it, you don't have time to do the shit you're doing now. And then some guy like me comes along and says, oh, really, you're not doing your best. you're like, hell with you. I am too. I'm busting my ass. There you are, busting your butt, waking up at 4:30 in the morning. Yes, you are. How do you escape that? How do you change that? You ever wake up and wish the day was already over? I used to. I used to a lot. I used to think to myself, I had a construction company and my son ran the field work and I did all the office work and stuff. And it was really great and we had a really good time doing it. But there were times when I would wake up in the morning knowing that I wasn't going to get home until 11 o'clock at night, and I will have worked a job all day in a prison and then another 6 hours running a piece of heavy equipment, getting stuff ready, right? And I'm like, ah. And the only way I was able to escape that was for me to decide that there was a new direction for me to take, and I took that first step. And then once I took that first step, I took the next step. The picking is, for some people, picking is hard. Picking the next step is hard. And the problem is, picking is hard because that requires action from you. It requires you to add one more step into your life. Now, that step might include having to take something away. That step might include you having to actually remove some things from your life that you don't want to see there anymore, or you don't have the time or the resources for. That might be the next step. Maybe you are way too busy doing way too many sporting events with your kids. Maybe the next step would be, instead of running 6 days a week to soccer games, that you run 6 days a week to the lake and go fishing, or you go explore in the mountains and go hiking with those kids. And maybe you cut that soccer down to 2 days a week. All about changing it. It's all about saying, okay, where are we going? Where are we going now? I don't know. It's pretty exciting for me, though. It's exciting for me to be satisfied enough with this to continue doing it. And exciting because every so often I get that nugget of inspiration where I show up and all of a sudden I'm looking through things, which I'm not supposed to do, by the way, because it's the most self-defeating thing I can do in my life. Between that and social media, it's like, please, right? But every once in a while, you just got to check it. You got to say, hey, guys, I wonder how I'm doing. I wonder how I'm doing. Feels good. Feels good to show up here. There are days when I'm like, okay. All right, they're listening. They get it. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what your day looks like. I know you probably know what yesterday looks like, and there's probably a good chance today's going to look just like that. And until you insert something new into that routine, until you say, let's change this up. Instead of coming home after work, I'm going to meet you at the park and we're going to go play with the dog and the kids. Every night. That's our thing. That's our step, our next step. And then maybe after that, maybe on certain occasions, we'll actually drop the kids off at your mom's house and we'll go walk. Go walk for an hour just to kind of clear our heads, get to know each other. That's a pretty good step. That's the step that saved our marriage. Or maybe it's sitting there with that stack of bills in front of you and accepting the idea that you have to do something, that you're going to have to get a job. You're going to have to find a way to make more money or to eliminate the debt. That's the next step. And then you do it. I don't know. I look at it and I think to myself, wow. Is this for real? Am I really telling people this? But yes, I am. It's true. Maybe you're not ready for it. There have been a few people who aren't, and I have to admit that back in the early days, I wasn't very good at delivering it. Now, I've mentioned before that I was this angry dude, that I was anger and I hid behind these shields. So can you imagine in the early days the process of actually trying to understand happiness and contentment and how to capture the most out of life? I'd be over there all excited about the shit I've discovered because I keep doing a lot of inner reflection and I'm listening to Brene Brown and doing all these things to improve myself and to have a better life. And but in a minute I'm like, yeah, no, your mowing lawn sucks. Why are you doing that? And everybody, people who were listening to my story back in the early, they're like, whoa, dude, I'm just trying to make a living, man. Back up, because I was kind of aggressive, and it's funny now to think about, because it's so much easier to do it this way. Yeah. Not telling you what to do, not even trying to tell you how to do it. I'm trying to give you insight as to how I did it. I continue to wake up every day with the next step. Hopefully, once I get this rhythm down right, I'm going to actually streamline this whole thing so I have the opportunity to get more workouts in and to do more things. And that's really the cool part about it. That's the next step for me, is to be able to fit the podcast and my workouts and the adventures that my wife is so interested in experiencing in to what I am trying to do every day with you. And it's cool because there is a way to fit these puzzle pieces together. And those are the steps that we have to take to see success. And we take those steps every day. And just like you take that step to go to work and to do what you did the last 10 years, by picking one more thing and taking a step towards that, guess what? Before you know it, you're going to be there as well. You're going to be where you should be. You're going to be right in the middle of this thing that you just cannot get enough of. That's how it works. So until next time, just remember, if you wake up in 10 years and you don't do any of this, and you're looking at your life and you're going, bah, look at my life, you're going to remember me. But on the other note, if you wake up in 10 years and you followed what I'm saying and you said, okay, all right, we're doing this now, baby. And she's like, what? That too? And we're just rocking it. And you wake up and you are on top of the world. If you're sitting there on top of the world, you're going to remember me then too. That's cool. That is cool. That is what this is about. That is what this is about for me. That is why I show up every day. I hope you will too. I hope you will continue to show up and ask me questions. I would love to hear from you. Please hit the subscribe. Please go over to YouTube. I don't know where you're listening to this at, but check it out and subscribe at YouTube and on your podcast app, just so that we can stay in touch. You may not be ready for everything that I do, and I guarantee you not everything I throw out every day is going to be top-notch, A1 quality work. Sometimes, just like you, I have a bad day, an off day. I hope you'll bear with me on that, because I am really trying to give you something. The opportunity to wake up and go, yeah, I like this. This is getting better. So until next time, just remember, today's your day. Make it a good one.